storage, you will always need more of it. Welcome back to F2W Tech. I'm your host Isaiah, and today I am back on spring break from college, and I am going to be talking about storage, specifically the differences between hard drives and SSDs, different specifications that you should be considering, and ultimately I'll give recommendations on what I believe to be the sweet spot for various price points. And yeah, so I'll give recommendations. We're going to talk about everything you need to know about storage, part of my Everything You Need to Know series, where I do beginner's guides to every important PC part. I haven't done one of these in over a year, I believe, and I've only done a few, but I'm going sequentially. Last one we did was RAM, and now we are on to storage. So let's get into it. Everything you need to know about storage. If you need to store data on your computing device, you will inevitably need storage. Unlike RAM, storage is persistent, meaning that it lasts even when your computer is rebooted. The two most common types of storage are hard disk drives, or HDDs, and solid state drives, or SSDs. SSDs are generally preferred for gaming, although both types of storage can be installed in the same system at the same time. Drives of all shapes and sizes perform two main tasks: reading and writing data. Reading data is accessing information from a storage device, while writing data is saving information from your computer onto a storage device. Product listings for storage devices typically list a drive's read and write times, and SSDs are typically much faster but have less capacity than hard drives. With hard drives, data is physically written onto the disk using magnets. With SSDs, data is written to NAND flash chips using electrons stored in floating gate transistors. DRAM is volatile storage used mostly in RAM, while NAND is non-volatile, permanent storage used in hard drives and SSDs. However, many SSDs actually do contain a small DRAM cache, which stores metadata and helps the drive communicate with the CPU. Drives without DRAM instead utilize DRAM from the host server. For personal computers, SSDs with a DRAM cache are faster and generally better quality than those without. Hard drives also contain a cache which performs a similar function. As with SSDs, the more cache, the better. However, storage capacity and speed is more important for most people. While the mumbo-jumbo of internal storage components may not be important to you, storage capacity, usually measured in gigabytes and terabytes, certainly is. In my opinion, the sweet spot is a 2 terabyte hard drive for large data files and a 1 terabyte SSD for the operating system and games. This is because a Windows 11 installation takes up about 27 gigabytes of storage, and games can take up as much as 100 gigabytes, some even more, looking at you, Warzone. Because storage prices have decreased substantially in recent years, it might make sense to purchase a single 2 terabyte SSD instead. And fun fact, that's actually what I most recently had in my PC, is a single 2 terabyte SSD. Hard drives and SSDs have various specifications and form factors that you should also consider. Modern hard drives are 5,400 rotations per minute, or RPM, or 7,200 RPM. Most experts agree that you should only really consider 7,200 RPM hard drives in a new system, as the difference in data transfer speed is genuinely noticeable. The two main SSD form factors are SATA, or 2.5 inch, and M.2. SATA SSDs are cheaper but less performant, while M.2 SSDs are generally more expensive and faster. SATA SSDs are mounted in your PC case and plugged into the power supply with a SATA cable, while M.2 SSDs are mounted directly on the motherboard, usually below the graphics card. M.2 SSDs also vary in price drastically based on their PCIe bus standard. PCIe Gen 5 SSDs are the fastest, but are very expensive. Most gamers opt for PCIe 4.0 or 3.0 M.2 SSDs, which are both much faster than hard drives and will perform well in games. SATA SSDs max out around 600 megabytes per second, PCIe 3.0 drives max out around 3,500, PCIe 4.0 SSDs max out around 7,000, and PCIe 5.0 SSDs max out around 14,000 megabytes per second. The gap between each spec may seem huge, but the difference is much greater between a PCIe 3.0 SSD and a hard drive, which maxes out at around only 160 megabytes per second. You may also see some M.2 SSDs labeled as NVMe, which means the drive uses a transfer protocol that decreases latency when accessing flash storage from the PCIe bus. Luckily, almost every modern M.2 SSD is NVMe, but it's still worthwhile to check in the product listing anyways. SSDs have another advantage. They have no moving parts and are therefore more reliable than hard drives. Another option that doesn't get a lot of attention and honestly is pretty often ignored is solid-state hybrid drives, or SSHDs. As the name suggests, SSHDs are a hybrid between hard drives and SSDs. Specifically, they combine the magnetic components of hard drives with the NAND flash memory of SSDs to provide a large capacity at an affordable price. In terms of form factor, they resemble traditional hard drives. However, for data not prioritized by the NAND flash, read and write speeds will be equivalent to a standard hard drive. And with storage being so cheap nowadays, I personally don't think SSHDs are a competitive option in the market at the moment, and I would not recommend that you buy them. Although much of this discussion is focused on internal drives, there are also external hard drives and SSDs. Many utilize external drives to back up their data in case a drive fails. Because external storage is slower than internal storage, it should be used for files accessed less frequently by applications running on your computer. It is extremely important to back up your computer's important data, and an external hard drive or SSD is the most common way to do so. I personally use an external SSD to back up my MacBook Pro. I back it up as often as I can, and I can say that it works very well. As always with my beginner's guides to PC parts, I will conclude with some actual storage recommendations. If you want a budget hard drive and SSD combo for maximal capacity with some SSD speed, consider the Patriot P300 512GB PCIe 3.0 NVMe SSD and the Seagate Barracuda 1TB 7200 RPM hard drive for a total of $65. However, the P300 does not have a DRAM cache, so you may want to consider spending a little more and searching PC Part Picker with the cache filter. It will display how much cache each drive has when you're searching. For a mid-range storage solution, consider the Aorus Gen 4 7300 1TB NVMe SSD, which has a 1024MB cache, and the WD Blue 2TB 7200 RPM for a total of $132. If you're an absolute baller but want something reasonable, consider the Corsair MP700 2TB PCIe 5.0 NVMe SSD for $249. It's important to note that PCIe Gen 5 SSDs are only compatible with select AMD AM5 and LGA 1700 motherboards. Generally reputable brands for storage include Western Digital, Seagate, and Samsung for hard drives, and additionally Sabrent, Kingston, Crucial, Intel, ADATA, Silicon Power, Corsair, Team Group, Inland, PNY, Gigabyte, Patriot, SK Hynix, Asus, BioStar, G.Skill, and Zotac for SSDs. As always, I hope that this guide helps you on your PC building journey. See you guys.